Okay, so in this guide I'll be showing you how to implement staggers into your gameplay. So before we do that, let me quickly go over what stagger is and why you'd actually want to implement it. So a stagger is basically where you go from one string into maybe a grab, special cancel a poke, or just another mid. It's basically where you go from one string into something else. So why would you actually want to do this? So if I let the full string rip and just use 2-1-2-1-2, great string. However, as long as my opponent guards correctly, I'm not really advancing in any way, shape or form. He's not really having to deal with much. So if I introduce staggers off of this string, I'm basically giving him more to deal with, and if I enforce staggers correctly upon my opponent, I can basically overwhelm him through staggering and basically just leave my opponent confused as to whether I'm going to stagger him, like the full string rip. Before I start going into what I personally do to get this going, it's important to know what makes a good stagger. So what makes a good stagger is a string which doesn't result in death on block. So if my opponent blocks this and just knows I'm going to stagger it, I will die. So a good stagger is something like standing 2, -4, it's good. 2-1, -3, good stagger. -2, really good goddamn stagger. From one error main to another, there's a good chance you're not using this, and all I can say to you is freaking use this, man. It's so strong. So two things I like to do just to see where my opponent's at. Let's stick with 2-1-2-1-2 for now. So with the 2 string, I'll either check my opponent with a poke, or just crouch guard just to draw my opponent's attacks out. Because I'm minus on all of my staggers, if Garrus mashes out down 1, he's going to beat me every single time, as I shall now demonstrate. So I can't check him with a poke in this instance, because if you try and enforce a stagger in this scenario, your opponent for the most part is just going to return a poke. So how do you get past this initial barrier to advance? So there are 2 things you can do depending on which character you use. So one thing you can do universally is throw counter them. So you see that? That's a reversal throw counter. Every single time I'm going to throw a counter him out of his poke. And you can back throw them as well. So it's kind of tricky to get the timing down on this. So one thing I do just to practice it, practice crouch guarding, pressing forward and grabbing. That's what your character should be doing. That's what the motion should look like. So hopefully seeing the command log there will actually help you with that. That's all you're doing. So as soon as you block the poke, release the block button forward into your grab. So grab. I mean, in that case I'm going back because I'm putting the back throw. Same thing every single time. If however you are blessed with a quick mid, which fortunately I am as an error block mid, back to unbreakable damage. Thank you very much, kind sir. Those are 2 things you can do to set your opponent back, because if I deal this to my opponent, let's say maybe 2 times, maybe even 3, once they've handed me 26% damage on a silver platter for the 3rd time, they'll most likely remain loyal to their guard at this point, which will give me room to play, which is what we want. So once you've got your staggers going, once your opponent starts respecting, you can go into your throw. This is really annoying, so basically this becomes a mind game in of itself, because you can just 2-1 into a throw. Sorry, 2-1 into a grab, because what can happen here is, if you condition your opponent to deal with a pattern like so, and then rip 2-1, by trying to make a read on when you're going to throw, which is after 2, they might get hit by 1 in 2-1, and then you can throw them out as well, which, yeah, that's really annoying to deal with, and it's really goddamn strong. So other things you can do, if you've got a command grab, use that. If you've got a command grab, to be honest, I wouldn't really bother with throws unless you're just trying to set up a throw crushing blow. With a throw, I mean, your opponent could tech it in theory. You're not teching a command grab, so that's so goddamn strong. And in Aaron's case, what you can do, if I do this to my opponent a couple times, whoops, sorry, I can start letting my mid rip. So I'm basically creating a 50-50 scenario off of my stagger where my opponent has to guess, because if he guesses wrong, he's going to freaking die. So other things you can do with staggers, again, you can special cancel, you can sweep because, you know, for some reason. you can backdash out of minus frames. Top tier fighting game. So you can do that. If my opponent tries to, you know, retaliate, I can whiff punish him, get that going. So there are so many goddamn things you can do with staggers. And then on top of that, he has to deal with me completing the string. So if he's trying to make a hard read on my stagger and he just decides to poke out, if he makes a mess of that, I mean, particularly with 2 on 2 on 2, I can actually just get the crushing blow for free as well. If I just decide to let the full string rip and on block, he tries to press out of it. So staggers are really goddamn strong because you can actually fish for your crushing blows. So you don't just have to pressure your opponent, you can also find ways to just cause your opponent to explode on the spot. So another thing that can happen, depending on when he tries to poke out, if he blocks the first hit and tries to mash, thinking of I'm trying to enforce a stagger, I can cancel my slide, enforce plus 20 upon him, and basically mix in between my mid and my command grab again, which is basically what I was doing off of my standing 2 stagger. So that is so goddamn strong. I mean, other things you can do with staggers also, you can introduce short hopping mind games, so stagger, command grab, turn, mid, all sorts of things like that, or you can just let the short hop rip. Now, you do want to be careful with this. What it kind of comes down to is how much you've conditioned your opponent to deal with staggers, because you can get poked out if you short hop, so you need to be careful of that. But it can be effective. I mean, it's definitely something to think about. Another thing you can do if you've got a command grab as well, you can just freaking go into a mid and just tick off staggers. So you can just give your opponent so much to think about, which ultimately will result in them just dying if they guess wrong. And if they remain loyal to their guard, they'll just die anyway, because you can just continue peppering them until you open them up, as opposed to just, you know, using a normal string over and over again. That's what staggers are really good for. So I hope this guide helps you. I do plan on making more, I guess, fundamental guides like this as well, as opposed to just character specific guides. When I say character specific, I mean Aaron Black guys, because it's the only character I freaking play on this game. But yeah, hope you all enjoyed. Have a good one. Take care, and I'll see you all later.